we have huge problems with the Norwegian child welfare system, also called Barnevernet. And this is not only me saying that. Norway has been convicted already 7 times in the European Court in a very short amount of time, which proves that what I'm saying now is also the consensus in the European Court of Human Rights, saying that we have some huge structural problems with Barnevernet. And I think the major reasons why we have these problems is because we have some certain aspects of totalitarianism in Norway, meaning that the government has full control of the people, and as long as you want to build a strong public system, quite similar in a way to what we saw in communist times, where the government was in total control of the people. We see some similarities with that in Norway too, when you see that they put a lot of public money into the public budgets, and it means that whatever the public says, the people have to comply with that. So, basically, we are struggling a lot, and of course, that causes a lot of pain and sufferings to thousands of families who are in conflict with this system called Barnevernet, including also Turkish families residing in Norway. So this is not a problem. It's not only a problem between Barnevernet and Norwegian families. It's a problem with Barnevernet and the international community. Well, I will say that Norway is a leading example for a lot of other countries in Europe when it comes to child welfare, unfortunately. And the countries which are most similar to the Norwegian Barnevernet is definitely the United Kingdom, Denmark, and to a certain extent Germany. I don't know the reason why, but you see that when this Grand Chamber case was pending before the European Court, UK and Denmark were supporting Norway. In other words, they wanted the European Court to acknowledge the Norwegian Barnevernet system, whereas other countries like Bulgaria, Slovakia, Poland, Czech Republic, and so on, more of the Eastern European countries, and also Belgium, by the way, were supporting the families. So you see there is a tension between some countries, but obviously Norway, Denmark, and UK are in minority in Europe. So their view upon the Norwegian child welfare system is not supported by very many countries. But it's true that I do get a lot of inquiries from, especially from Denmark, but also some from the UK, even from Germany, and they want to, because they feel that there are certain similarities between the Norwegian child welfare system and the system in these countries. So, especially UK, I think, has some severe problems with their system as well. So, and now since UK has left the European Union, it's definitely going to be more difficult to control what's going on, because that's what happened in Norway. That we were like an isolated country in the north, where no one has really controlled Norway. I mean, they have been doing whatever they feel like, and without any international control. Before we started to focus on this, since 2015, and I would like to salute your program, because Turkey has been a very important factor, like many other countries, when it comes to like giving some attention to the problems in Norway. So that's why I think it's very important to keep on with that pressure as long as possible, because the system, even though we see some improvements now, we still have a long way to go. You have to be optimistic. We're living in the 21st century, and of course, I personally feel great satisfaction that the European Court of Human Rights have supported me and thousands of other people who are fighting against this regime. And that, of course, gives me some confidence that we will be able to somehow solve these problems. But on the other side, we still have a long way to go. If we go 5 years back in time, in October 2015, I was in Turkey with a woman called Stine Gulbrandsen on your program. And she's still, even though with these 7 convictions of the European Court of Human Rights, the government of Norway still wants to adopt her child, take away parental responsibility. So she still has to fight in the Norwegian court system even 5 years later. So that proves to me that this battle, it's going to be a long-running battle. It's going to take years before we have some really positive results, even though we have the judgment from the court. It's still a very slow process before we see like true changes. But I'm always optimistic. So I think that thanks to the European cooperation in a way, I think that Norway no longer can commit these atrocities to its own people or to other people. That has to stop. And if that's the answer, I think that we will see a much better and brighter child welfare system in the future than what we see now. So I think that's thanks to the social revolution. I think that the social media revolution, that because everything is so transparent now, so the government can no longer commit these atrocities without being scrutinized by the rest of Europe or the rest of the world, for that matter. And even in February I was in New Zealand, and even in New Zealand, which is as far as possible away from Norway geographically, they had noticed what was going on in Norway. So that brings the people closer together. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things about this fight, that you get to meet people from all over the world, and we're fighting the same cause. So that's why I'm rather optimistic about the future fight. But obviously it's still a long way to go. Barnevernet is not only Barnevernet as a problem. I think Barnevernet is just one fraction of a much bigger problem, meaning that we can blame Barnevernet for taking children away from good parents, but you must remember that it's not Barnevernet who makes these decisions. It's the judiciary who actually are taking these decisions. So when Norway is convicted in the European Court of Human Rights, it's not Barnevernet, it's the Norwegian judiciary system that is actually on trial. So, and my concern is it's actually more about the Norwegian judiciary than Barnevernet, because it proves to me that we have a judiciary in Norway that is very loyal to the government. And when you have a judiciary that is not independent, then you have the judiciary is a part of the Norwegian government or the Norwegian elite or the Norwegian official, if you want to say. And that in a way proves that we have to bring more focus upon the ones who are in power. Of course, Barnevernet has a lot of power, but they're not making the decisions. That's for the judiciary to do. And we see that we have a lot of other judicial scandals in Norway. We have the scandals with, for instance, the Spanish sailors, who, and in a way it resembles the same thing, because, we had thousands of Spanish workers who worked for Norwegian ships or in the oil industry in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And when these people retired after working 20, 30 years in the Norwegian sector, they were left without any social benefits from the Norwegian government. And when they tried this case before the Norwegian courts, they were rejected by the same courts, because the courts have a very strong tendency to always support the Norwegian government. So that's a very big concern for me, that we don't really live in a judicial democracy. We live in more like a judicial dictatorship. So I think that's very important to bring that to the attention to the people, that we are in a way going from what people think is a democracy to more of a public dictatorship. And that's why I think it's important also to discuss a little bit about the Corona situation, because that really reflects where the world is leading to right now.